Watercolors can be intimidating to start with, but you really don't need to feel the medium. It's much simpler than you think, and so much simpler than many want to make you believe. Today I'm going to share with you what you really need to start and how you can determine which supplies will bring you further. I'm totally aware that when starting with a new hobby, it can be overwhelming to choose the best supplies to start with, because there are factors like price and quality, which are a bit tricky to foresee when you haven't tried it yet. And even if you did, to know what is right for you and what the differences are to the next higher quality might be tricky if you haven't used it yet. Over the last years, I painted with watercolors a lot, tested many and built a watercolor database, which is free to use for everyone. It's called Sun Colors and is linked down below, by the way. Having so many supplies only led me to using those that I enjoy the most. And those are often supplies that have a good quality, are consistent and reliable. What I also noticed about my use, that I don't need much to paint a lot and professionally. So my first tip is, start out with the best quality you can afford, but a limited selection. You really won't need much. Don't listen to the endless lists of what you need to start. If they have more than 5 items, really it's not what you'll need. And the threshold to actually start will seem higher if your list grows longer and longer before you can actually start. The other day I've seen someone posting a list of over 20 items asking if they already have all they need to finally start. Don't put yourself in a situation where you feel pressured to buy rather than to create, because creativity is key and painting will feel so much more rewarding to you. Here's the minimal list of what you need to start, and trust me, to start first you won't need more than that. It's first watercolors. Get decent ones or the highest quality you can afford. Don't start with the cheap stuff that is meant for school kids. The low pigmentation won't make you happy. Colors will look washed out and will not behave like you expect them to from the tutorials and videos you might watch online. So recreating those will be frustrating. Get yourself at least student grade paints from one of the known paint making companies. I'm not brand loyal, but I've had good experiences with Schminke Academy, Royal Talents Van Gogh, Nevskaya Palitra Sonnet, and used them for tutorials myself as well as in the sketchbooks. I will put links to them down in the description below. Winsor & Newton Cotmans are okay too. They're a bit harder to rebate than the previous ones, but will work. I started out with the Cotmans myself. If you're new, you might ask yourself what the difference is between student grade paints and professional ones. It's mostly the pigment load, which is slightly lower in the student grade paints. They also don't have a flowing agent most often, so they move less in water and are easier to control. Get yourself a small set of 12 colors max. You don't need more. It should have 2 yellows, 2 blues and 2 reds. Some browns are bonus. Everything else is flavor. With a split primary as shown on screen, you'll be able to mix everything you want and will help you to develop a sense for color mixing and harmonious color palette. Don't underestimate limitations. It's an advantage at this point. If your budget allows, you can go for a professional set. It's the same rule. Look for a small set or put one together. I might make a video of my favorite palette setup, which is super versatile. Split primary is the key here as well. You don't need white or black, but some browns are helpful. In any case, I recommend starting with a small set that allows you to experience the medium, play with it and experiment with color mixing. It makes learning easier, and with some time you will know what you need and which colors to get to complement your palette for your use. It will make the setup highly individual and hopefully perfect for your individual needs. And honestly, only with some use you will know what color pigment will enhance your experience. While there are many big palettes out there, and especially many marketed to beginners, it's not what is needed to truly learn. If you have paints, you need brushes, right? That's a given. But which ones to get? What sizes, and go for cheap or rather quality? Well, I feel like there's a simple answer to it. Start with a middle ground, and it kind of depends on what you want to paint and the sizes of your papers. Watercolor brushes come in natural hair and synthetic hair. Synthetic tends to be cheaper and I personally prefer them. With the recent years, the quality of synthetic brushes grew better and better. They can hold lots of water, keep a great tip and can easily compete with natural hair brushes. In addition, it's nice to know that I avoid animal cruelty by using synthetic brushes. For disclaimer, I own natural hair brushes, but I don't use them anymore, and I don't buy new ones for that reason, but I have a base of comparison. To start out, synthetic hair is totally fine. I'd suggest to get 3 to 4 brushes to start with. My number one would be a size 01 quill brush by Da Vinci. It's the perfect size to paint A4 and smaller. For small pieces, it can also be used to wet the paper before painting. The tip is great on those quills too, so I've definitely used them as a single brush for an entire painting before. Although Da Vinci is my preferred quill brush, you can look into other brands which might be more available to you. Most brush makers offer quills too. The other brushes would be cheapish synthetic brushes, sizes 6, 2 and 0 for me. I get the store brand from the shop I usually shop from. It's funnily called I Love Art. They cost only a few euros, but have a great tip. Printed Velvet Touch is great too and fits the same slot for me. I'm also trying different ones that might work as well, but I will let you know in a review once it's published. Just look at the tip. Your brush should come with a sharp point, which you will need for details and precision. Don't get the super cheap ones because those still don't hold lots of water and might be a little tricky to paint with, but you definitely don't have to get the most expensive ones you see either. The brushes you invest in the beginning will suit you for many years, and especially in the small sizes, synthetic brushes are more precise as they're not as soft and hold the tip better. I can see more benefit in the bigger sizes, but you can always upgrade once you have started and know exactly what you miss for your creations. If you want, you can add a flat brush to pre-wet your paper. I do use the Da Vinci Casaneo one for it too. Realistically, I don't always pre-wet the paper and choose a technique depending on the result I want. That's why I think the flat brush would be optional or want to extend your collection. Finally, you will need paper. Here, my first choice will always be 100% cotton paper of the brand you can get for the best price where you live. I do not recommend a specific brand as I'm not really brand loyal. I use one brand mostly though because it's what I can get for the best price and the quality suits me. My absolute favorite paper is Fabriano Artistico as I like how it feels under my brush and the texture appeals to me as well. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Arches as I don't like the texture, but it's a great paper and behaves well too. Hahnemühle has great papers as well, which I'm currently testing. You can find some of the reviews in my playlists. It's the beauty of having equally nerdy art friends who will share their honest opinions. I love this community and all the art friends I met through YouTube and art in general. Let's talk about the price of the paper though. Cotton can be expensive, very expensive in comparison to cellulose or wood pulp paper. And I know that not everyone can afford it. It's totally valid and a fair point. While paints get used up slowly and brushes can last for many years if you treat them well, paper gets used up fast. So if you can afford, get the paper with the highest percentage of cotton. And if you can get a nice cellulose paper to practice on, honestly, I feel like Hahnemühle Britannia behaved nicely, but it wasn't good with masking fluid or tape, which you don't need in the beginning. So it could be a start for you. I'd always recommend a paper with 300 GSM weight, as it's thicker, no matter if cellulose or cotton by the way, and won't warp as quickly when you paint. Don't hoard the paper though. Get yourself a pack of sheets and a sketchbook maybe, or use the sheets to make yourself one. It's what I do and I love my handmade sketchbooks a lot, and when you use it up, get the next ones. I know it's tempting to get the best deals and try out all the brands, but keep in mind that watercolor paper can go bad. The sizing on the paper will deteriorate with time, and if you hoard, you risk that it happens to your paper before you have used it. It has no effect once you've painted though, so just play it safe and get what you need first. It will also give you the chance to try out papers and find the perfect one for you. When you use one up and get a new one after, you will never be stuck with a stash of paper you don't like. And honestly, it's all you need to start. Don't fall for the awfully long lists, because most likely you won't need or know how to use all the tools. Most of the painters who suggest them use a much shorter list of supplies when they actually paint themselves. So pay attention to what is really used and needed. I want to give you an honorable mention to 2 more things you might need in the beginning, which you most likely already own. A pencil and an eraser. Those are things you probably don't need to buy even and already own. For a pencil, just use your regular pencil. It doesn't have to be anything special. Going further, you might want to switch to a different brand or a mechanical one, but in the beginning, it doesn't really matter. I switch mine out regularly. One that I like is the Staedtler Maß Lumograph because they feel soft, but you can use anything you like and own really. When it comes to an eraser, use what you own in the beginning. If you feel like your eraser is smudging much, it's time to switch it out though. Recommended are kneaded soft erasers because they're kinder to your paper, but with a regular eraser, you too can erase well. I like the simple white ones because they erase well. Best is to carefully dip them over the paper surface to remove graphite and not rub them aggressively. And while I agree with the recommendation that in the long run, if you want to make professional pieces, a kneaded razor might be better, you can use the one you already own to start. Starting with a new medium can be tricky already, and making overly long lists of what you need is an additional threshold to overcome. So why? I don't see the use there, but I see use in exploring the medium with a basic setup and play with it. Then you will know what you enjoy and will be able to make educated decisions on what you need. I've seen suggestions to get masking fluid, but do you need it? I don't think it's for beginners. It's tricky, you will need to wait for it to dry, and it can rip your paper once removed. Why add frustration to the start? When you know the medium better, you will know the uses for it and can get it then. I personally use it rarely for very specific cases because I simply don't like to wait for it to dry and then the hassle to remove it. But sometimes it's just what I need to get a certain effect I want. If you have white ink or a white gel pen, could help you to create highlights too. If you want to get something for it, I'd recommend titanium white gouache. It's what I use and I love that I can add a pen of it to my go-to palette, but choose a brand that rewets nicely because there are some brands that just don't, so it's a little bit tricky. So my brand is Schminke Horadam and it's nicely rewettable and usable and just doing its job without having an extra bottle or two with me, and that's why I put it in pans in my to-go palettes, and that's just easier for me. And also it doesn't add extra drying time, unlike masking fluid. Another tool you might want to use and probably have at home is washi tape. A masking tape is a great tool for straight edges, but you can simply use washi tape for them. I actually do that for the miniature paintings because it comes in those handy thin sizes, which are just perfect. I also have some painter's tape left over from painting my walls, like in the apartment from the move. I like the golden one because it sticks nicely, but also can be easily removed from paper. It's cheap in comparison and works perfectly fine. But with time, you too will know your tools and have a better understanding of what you need, want, and will actually use for your art. In the beginning, it's only important to start and nothing else. So I hope this video helps you to feel less anxious about starting with painting and will help you to overcome this threshold. If you have questions about anything really, like about specific supplies or techniques or whatever, feel free to leave a comment or join Discord. We have lots of lovely nerdy art talks over there and I love to see all the beautiful artworks shared. Also, I want to encourage you to just start when you feel like you want to paint. The hardest step is to put some paint on paper. No one starts a master, and you can only learn once you start. I wish you a smooth watercolor journey, and I hope you'll stick around to share some of it with me. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!